Hey everybody, welcome back to the All UVCast channel. It is Matchday Live, getting ready for the match versus Sampdoria, which will be taking place in about roughly 4 hours. And I got Eric and Antonio join me. Guys, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thank you.
Doing
Right
good,
on,
man.
right on. Well, we have to be doing pretty good because that was a hell of a last round in Serie A. It could have gotten just that smidge better if Merida would have lost, but they managed to draw. But everything else ended up going right for Juve. We get through the Coppa Italia and played a pretty solid game, a very business-like game, I thought, from Juve. And we got to see Fagioli in there, and now it looks like he's got a spot on the team. Portanova taking off in another acquisition for Rovella. And Fagioli's going to be staying with the team and getting his minutes here and there. And we're definitely going to touch on Fagioli and that youngster and whatnot. But we got Sampdoria today. 134 times these two clubs have met. 70 wins for Juve, 27 losses, 37 draws. Leading goal scorer in the history of the fixture. Any guesses? This guy comes up in a ton of them. A ton of them. It's a scoring machine back in the day, way back in the day. Sivori with 12. Bonaberti just behind him with 11. It's almost a safe bet with these old Serie A clubs. You just guess Sivori, and you'll get it. But yeah, so we made through a good week. We got Conte trying to push the pressure back to Juve, saying that we're favorites and all that. And then you've got fans still saying that there's not much progress in terms of the play from Juve. And we've got a bunch of other stuff we're going to get into. So let's start off with the favorites talk and all this. And we know it's just Conte playing games. He's trying to ease the pressure off his team as they currently sit above us and whatnot. And they're very much in the thick of things. But we did set up another showdown in the Coppa Italia now with them. And you got fans saying, I've talked to some that say, go all out Serie A, get your heavy rotation in against Merda, and let that go if you have to. Colin's joining us. Ciao, Colin. I don't necessarily agree with that at all for a couple points, but I want to see how you guys feel. How do you guys feel about the Coppa Italia tie? Would you like to see a heavy rotation, or you think we're good enough to just go into it with the same type approach and get after it? Let's start with Eric here.
I don't, Al, I think you know me by now. Personally, as a competitor or, former athlete, anytime you take the pitch, you do so with the intentions to beat the fuck out of the opponent. Excuse my language, but you don't take a pitch with the idea that it's just going to be passive and you're looking for the next game. Every time you step on there, the idea is to win. So for me, that's just one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, I think at this point in the season, the tinkering should be done. The rotations should be done. It's time for us to start building the chemistry with the starting 11 because we have bigger aspirations. There is the UCL that we have to focus on. So we need to actually start probably minimizing our rotation with our starting 11 because we need to start getting that 11 going.
Yeah, and not only that for me, but also the fact that it's a bit of a measuring stick in terms of was that match previously a blackout?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that big if that's kind of lingering around there, and I want to see if we have kind of turned that corner, so to speak. And also, at first. After that first match, I said, I wasn't sure. I know we were missing a bunch of guys, but we got so much wrong tactically in that one, and the adjustments weren't there from Pirlo that I didn't feel those guys would make enough of that change. But together, I think with these guys coming back, us getting healthy again, it's no question to me. Like, I mean, if you had to choose Sandro or Frabotta on the left, that's a no-brainer, in my opinion. And De Ligt at the back. Not saying Chiellini did anything bad by any means, but De Ligt has pocketed Lukaku easily in the past, and you take that matchup any day of the week. So I think that's going to help too. But Pirlo's also made a shift in terms of the midfield and figuring out these guys. And obviously we can talk about that as well. Iskander, join us. Thanks for joining, bro. Projected lineup in this one. We got Szczesny, Cuadrado, Chiellini, Lisi, Danilo. Chiesa, Bentancur, Arthur, McKennie is that midfield now that seems to be the one of choice for Pirlo. And I think we all agree with that one as far as the midfield goes. And then that's going to be Morata and CR up top. This is what's projected. So De Ligt not in there. But again, Coppa Italia tie will be on Tuesday for the first leg of the semifinal. And you've got fans already kind of making a fuss about De Ligt not being in there. And honestly, I think it's fine. I mean, we're finally healthy at the back. I don't think De Ligt, and this is what some fans are bringing up, is that he's going to have an issue splitting time, especially when one of those guys hasn't been performing to the standard that we need, which obviously is number 19 there. But I don't see De Ligt having any kind of issue with a slight rotation in matches here and there. He knows he's the future, in my opinion, and I don't see any issues there. But what do you guys think about this lineup to kick it off in this Sampdoria match? And let's keep eyes on Coppa Italia and what you want to see in terms of lineup there. Antonio, you can field this one.
I think I'm more than happy with the projected lineup, especially with De Ligt potentially sitting this one out. I think he's more important to us against Merda than he is against Sampdoria. Chiellini as well, you can see him, touch wood, that he's starting to obviously get a bit of level of consistency back in the old legs. I'm quite happy with the projected lineup because I think De Ligt is more important over the two matches against Merda, especially coming so quick after the Sampdoria game.
Yeah, and I think, again, it just comes to the competition and a lot of people downplaying the Coppa Italia and just saying, yeah, it is. Obviously, out of the competitions we're in, of course, it would take a back seat to the others. But I still think, again, for the reasons Eric expressed and myself, you still put your best foot forward and you keep going at it. And then we get to a good question. And George obviously saying won't be an issue for De Ligt. I agree. Chiellini's must be managed, absolutely. Iskander, is this the best lineup for Pirlo? I think currently at the moment, yeah, absolutely. Minus obviously De Ligt being in there, because I think if you're going to have a best lineup, for sure De Ligt makes it into the back for me. But this is pretty damn close, right? Yeah. And your best lineup. This is. What's interesting is the conversation got brought up when everybody saw this lineup yesterday and just say, yeah, that's a strong lineup, whatnot. This is our best. The funny thing is our best will change. It will change just like it did from the start, as it has now, as form changes from players. So you ride out the hot hand, you go with what's working. My biggest thing and where I think we're at right now is, yes, this is a strong lineup. When you talk about Coppa Italia, all these fans that quite a few that say put your heavy rotation in, keep pushing at Serie A, get ready for Champions League. I think Pirlo will be better now, and I think it's going to happen now where you see less changes. He's still going to rotate guys, give guys breaks because he has that benefit. But before we were seeing too many changes, in my opinion, from one lineup to the next, and it could have been slowing down the chemistry. and how the team was working and whatnot. And Eric, what do you think about that? First of all, do you agree this is the best lineup currently at the moment, minus De Ligt? But just your thoughts on that and your thoughts in what you want to see in the rotation moving forward against Merda there.
So, no, I don't think this is the best lineup. And I know Quadrado FC is going to come after me for saying this, but I definitely believe Danilo is better suited for us at the right back position. I think we're much more balanced. And then you put Sandro at left back. I think, to me, that would be a major switch. And then I also believe that De Ligt and Chiellini would be our best center back pairing because I was under the impression that the main reason Bonucci is getting those starts is because of his ability to attack from the back, which we haven't hardly seen that at all. So guys like Chiellini and De Ligt have been making the same passes as well as the same runs forward that Bonucci has been without the risk of being beat at the back. So that would be my major change with putting De Ligt and Chiellini as a center back pairing, and then putting Danilo at right back and Sandro at left back. In terms of rotation, I'll piggyback off what I said previously, is that I think that he has to kind of start minimizing the rotation specifically so that we can start getting the chemistry, and so that the players that are solid 11 can really start building the chemistry that they need to start playing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I'll get into that, but I want to get Antonio. What do you think about that?
I think I must agree with Eric. I think our best lineup won't have Bonucci in it. Doesn't matter what way you look at it. I think with Arthur finally starting to live up to why he was brought into the side, I think he's been outstanding the last couple of games. You don't need that playmaking centre half. You need a proper defender in there. So I wouldn't have Bonucci. You know this, Al. We've had this discussion many a time. It's not a witch hunt against Bonucci. I just don't think the guy as a defender cuts the mustard. As a footballer, fantastic. Can't deny his ability. But as a defender, what he's paid to do, he is obviously up for debate. On the right-hand side, Quadrado's been, again, he's came back with a bang. But that's not going to, for me, that doesn't rule out Chiesa being the best suited, obviously, right-hand-sided player. With Sandro on the left, I think that's the best balance, because you need someone over to cover Ronaldo.
Yeah, so the thing is, we've got these Pirlo's trying to fit in. I get what he's trying to do, right? And trying to fit in these guys, as many as possible. At the back, with De Ligt in there. And the other thing is, too, how are we looking at this? Because it's
I was just about to bring that up.
Because it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid setup, and it changes, right? So if like for me with De Ligt in, I would like my back three, all guys fit, is Chiellini, De Ligt, Danilo.
Yeah, I agree.
In that three setup, Danilo could go to either side really, and be fine, because we know that back shape ends up forming three. The question then becomes, on those wing back positions, are you going to have Quadrado on one side, or could you put Chiesa? And as Colin has brought up here, the debate is there and everybody's seen it in the play. Chiesa is way more effective on the right side of the pitch than he is on the left. So if we're doing this, getting Quadrado in there and then having to split Chiesa out on the left, are we not better off just saying, hey, it's one or the other, and line one of those guys up and use somebody that can be actually effective on that left side? Like that question has to be raised. But eyes will definitely be on Chiesa in this one, because that projection, they always put him there. Like Eric said earlier, he's going to be on the left side. There's like no doubt in my mind. If Quadrado's on the right, Chiesa will be the guy on the left. So those are kind of question marks in it. And then McKennie has pretty much taken over that spot. Ramsey is just like it seems like it's always been the same discussion with Ramsey. Like, he does things well, but it's all off the ball stuff. And sometimes even that struggles. because sometimes he's already, I said it in the last podcast, he's already at the front line and he's kind of negated the entire build-up phase and he's just already there. Whereas McKennie, he's very, very smart in terms of the space that he occupies and then being that trailer into the area. And he's doing a really, really great job at that. Whereas Ramsey, I just see it's like, boom, I'm in the mid playing defense. Boom, I'm at the last line right next to our forwards. And it's like, okay, man, take your time. Get in there, get more involved in the build-up. So McKennie has taken that position 100%. Rabiot had a great match last time. It's nothing to get too pumped on about. Same thing with Fagioli. Well, I think he played a great game, but Spal left us with acres of freedom in the middle of the park there in that game. That's not going to happen, against these Serie A opponents. It won't happen today with Sampdoria, whatnot. So while I was pumped on Fagioli, I kind of said there, I want to see him with less time, less space. I want to see what he can do like in pressure. But at the same time, I don't think Fagioli we're going to see in any kind of crucial matchup. I think if a game's done and dusted, he'll get his minutes in there. But that's really it out of that. But yeah, in terms of lineup, you're spot on. Bonucci is not in it. I agree with you guys. Like he can't be. The question mark becomes those wing backs. So if you put Sandro on one side, that pretty much does move Danilo over to the opposite side. That puts Chiellini in there, puts De Ligt in there. In terms of that then becomes your left side in the progressive side, where Sandro would slide forward. Your back three would become Danilo, Chiellini, Bonucci. That leaves your right wing back to close out the other side and attack, which would naturally be Chiesa. And the rest would set up Bentancur, Arthur, and then McKennie on the side. Ramsey typically occupies, and then coming in from there with your two forwards up top. That, I would have to say, would be our best. Quadrado's got his part to play. You can go back and forth on that. The thing I see with a lot of these guys is there's good and bad. Like you have to take the good and the bad. Sandro's one of those guys. Quadrado is another. And it's not to say that Chiesa is safe from that too, because if it comes down to some defensive stuff, his work rate's great and stuff, but it's not the best. But you have a trade-off in defensive ability 100% with Quadrado too. Sandro, you're not so worried about the defensive side, but are you going to get that offense that you need out of it when he's on there, right? So there's trade-offs there, right? So that's why I think when we're talking best lineup, it's really, really hard to do, right? Because you've got to make it all balance out and factor in this from each player, right? But the midfield's a lock. Bentancur and Arthur, I got to say, I think the jury's still out, but I had feelings that I couldn't see the two guys playing together. But it's starting to kind of mold into something. But I don't know if we're going to see what we saw last time, where Bentancur was kind of the holder and Arthur was more the one moving forward. But what do you guys think about that pairing? And Bentancur's been thrown out there by a lot of fans as somebody they'd like to actually move in order to make some acquisitions in the summer. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Bentancur and possibly a move. Eric, kick us off on Bentancur and your thoughts there.
It took him a while, I feel like, to truly understand what was going to be asked of him in the system, especially when you have essentially a midfielder that you're losing from a offensive phase back into the defensive phase with this hybrid 4-4-2. And it's very demanding of your other two center mids, because your zones become so much greater when you start losing that third midfielder. So I thought it took him a while to truly understand what was being asked of him, but I also thought that Pirlo was kind of setting him up for failure without using a guy like Arthur as the holding midfielder. Yeah. So once he became the holding midfielder, essentially, I think Bentancur kind of dropped into what his natural position is, which is a Mezzala on the right side. And his coverage, his defensive coverage, everything has been great. And then what's weird is if Ramsey's playing, he's on the left. When McKennie plays, he's on the right. So that really kind of is a little bit of a weird thing because whoever's playing the defensive center mid at that point in time, usually Rabiot, it's playing them out of position because they're more comfortable on one side than they are the other. So I thought making McKennie switch was obviously a no-brainer the way that he plays. I think he's head and shoulders above Ramsey just in his situational awareness, his positioning, all that. So I think all of those other things, getting Arthur in there, getting McKennie in there, has really helped Bentancur with his play and his understanding in that formation.
Yeah. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I must agree. I think if we've all played the game at a decent level, what I've said before on previous podcasts, your midfield's the most important part of the pitch. As I say, you need consistency on the personnel who plays game after game. I think Pirlo's now understanding the roles of Arthur, McKennie and Bentancur, and I think they understand as well what's required of them. And that to me, for Bentancur especially, is very important for his part of the game because he knows now what his job is before he goes onto the pitch with Arthur starting beside him. Just another personal thing I want to add on Bentancur. For me, he's the most frustrating player we've got in that roster. He has got so much potential, has had since the minute I laid eyes on him when he first came onto the scene. I thought, yeah, he's going to be special. He just lacks, almost as if he's got no confidence to get up and try and get into the box like McKennie does. I think that's the only thing lacking from his game is scoring goals and taking the shot, because he's got a great shot. I mean, you've seen himself when he does connect with the ball. He's got a cracking shot, but he needs to do more of that for me to really progress. Because for me personally, to go back to what you were saying, Alberto, I think he could potentially be moved on in the summer because he holds value, and as I say, and he's not. He's just stalled for me in the last couple of years. He's not going forward, and he's not going back. He's just staying. He's playing it safe for me.
Yeah, we've essentially. Juve has dealt with that 50% clause with Boca, so that's no longer an issue. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the names that's out there in terms of value. Obviously, Dybala, another one. But it's funny. I find it really, really funny with the midfield because while we struggle, it's these guys are shit. Our midfield's fucking awful. Like, these guys are brutal. And then they start throwing the big names out. And you can't help but laugh at times because these guys, a couple of the, like one of the names, he was a nobody before he even joined Juve. But again, it's like, and Erica and I have gone back on this. And if I, say a certain player, it's not just because of the name, but it's the traits. It's what he has and fitting into our system because it's got to be a combination that works. So it's funny. Then when things go well, oh yeah, no, this is it. This is our midfield. This is how it's got to work. These are the guys. It's a combination. Now it's going to have to change because if this is your go-to, then the change-up has to have the equal parts to fit the system. Yeah. And I think that's when you start looking at that, that's where you start to see that maybe it's not as versatile as it needs to be. It just in terms of the depth there, I think we're one improved playmaker on Ramsey from having a good two-part unit. And whether, DePaul would be a great fit in there. He's one of the names, but everybody wants that bigger name. Everyone wants that guy. If he has the right skills, traits, and abilities, I'm fine with that. But this is like the prime example of showing you that it's the unit. It's them working as a unit, complementing each other, because McKennie was a nobody.
Yeah.
He was a nobody, and he's arguably our most important guy in the midfield. But then Arthur's got his part too, because he's that escape. He's that, okay, we're in trouble. Like, get the ball to this guy's feet, gives us some breathing room because he's not going to lose it, So it's gotta work as a unit. Like coming in here with people been sleeping on Bentancur. Love the South American grinta he brings up, even when he has a bad game. Rarely his head down. Shouldn't move him unless we bring in quality. But who is out there? Well, that's just it. And then Colin saying, let's just say the name Pogba. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and Eric and we get into this quite often, and I've got mixed feelings about it because I kind of agree. I definitely agree that the system has to work. It has to work. But again, when you just look at the players and whatnot, I can't help but be left with the feeling that, again, one guy that could just shred a defense with one pass, that just has that vision, that could just break it apart. Even Locatelli, there's guys that are available out there. Do we need to move away from Bentancur to make the move? Well, that just depends on what guys we can move. I think we're going to have a hell of a time when these guys come back from loan in getting anything decent out of Armani, DeShilio, and Costa. Bayern's already made their decision, which is that's not happening. Now Milan, apparently the rumors are ramping up that they might want it, but man, I wouldn't send him over there just in case. I wouldn't want him going to Milan by any means. The couple games that he will play, he'll probably shred. But I don't know. And then Mal saying, I'd love Pogba, but is it realistic? I don't see it happening.
No.
Personally. I don't see it happening. So now we get into the talks of these other guys. DePaul is seen as not good enough for Juve by many people, and I personally disagree. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Rodrigo DePaul. Locatelli, I'd like. That's another show. And I honestly think he is joining Juve this summer. I think that's sealed. Now the rumors are coming up as we picked up Marley Ake shares the same agent as Awar, and now those rumors are picking up again. But honestly, Locatelli, DePaul, or Awar, I'd be more than happy with. And those seem to be more reasonable price tags, even though they are, 40, 50 mil, whatnot. That's half of what you're going to have to get into trying to go after Pogba. His is going to come down because of the situation at Man U or whatnot. But we literally offered them a mess of players last year. But it was kind of funny because we know if you're offering Ramsey, Rabiot, and some of our other, outcasts, I think Costa was one of the guys too. Man U said no. Straight up, 100 million. You can have Pogba. But why are these other guys seen as not good enough for Juve? And what do you feel about these other players? Locatelli, DePaul, Awar. For me, I'd be more than happy with adding one of those guys. If we get two, I think we're laughing. But what do you guys think about those players and guys saying they're not good enough for Juve?
Go ahead, Tony.
Thanks, Eric. I think when you look at the acquisitions we've made already, with Rovella coming in as well from Genoa, watching him against us in the Coppa Italia, I think I messaged you directly after the game, Alberto, and said, "Wow, the guy's got character. It looks as if he could play his part next year." So obviously, Rovella's coming in. Artur will remain, so that's your two deepest playmaking. Obviously, bear in mind, Pirlo will probably keep the same system going forward. With Locatelli coming in, my opinion, he'll probably play that deep lying midfield kind of playmaking role. So that leaves you with McKennie. Hopefully he'll remain. I'm hoping they'll tie that one up as well. So then you're back to the old question about Bentancur. I think they'll move him on to bring someone in, i.e. Alwar, DePaul. And to be honest with you, I'd be quite happy for any two of them. I'm a big fan of Alwar. I think he's a fantastic player. I've been keeping my eyes on him on the Lyon games, and I think he's going to be one for the future. Pogba, as much as I love Pogba, realistically, I can't see him coming back financially. Yeah. I think he's already signed his contract with Real Madrid. I've got a theory with Real Madrid opening up the new stadium next year. I think he'll be the marquee signing for Real Madrid. That's just a personal opinion. I think it's already done.
Yeah. Eric, your thoughts on these guys?
It's tough for me to generate a response to that because every time I turn around, we're linked to some other midfielder that all of a sudden is better than everybody else. So we've gone back and forth about this, and I've always talked about how, like, if you can't make the three midfielders that you have currently on your squad go, the plug and play theory doesn't work. And so would I like to have some of those players? Yes. But my issue that I have is that we're linked with three other starting midfielders while we currently have three starting midfielders. And it's just like, it's one of those too many Chiefs, not enough Indians thing. Like, you can't be linked with all these big names and just expect them to come in and shine. It's not working with Kulishevsky. That's a prime example of the whole plug and play aspect. He's trying to find a home. So you go after a guy like DePaul, who personally, I don't think he's it. Not my guy. Don't like it. I don't want him there. I just don't like it. Locatelli and Pogba would be my top two. But once again, if Locatelli's there, he's a starting defensive center mid. He's a starting holding midfielder. What does that do with Arthur? Are you going to put these guys in rotation? Are you giving him enough minutes? Is he going to be happy?
Yeah.
And you have Pogba. And it's like, can Pogba play the role of McKinney? Because that's basically going to be the trade-off. So what do you do with a guy like McKinney who's been playing outstanding? It's like all these pieces of the puzzle, man. I'm not a fan of just throwing names out there and grabbing these guys and forcing them to fit in this puzzle. And I think that's what we're trying to do with these big name players. And I don't see how that just all of a sudden works for us. It's part of the game that's very aggravating for me. It's part of the sport that's aggravating for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we touch on the midfield, and again, going back to what I said earlier, I think if you're looking at the second side of the unit, there's a gap there. So I think, like, trying to add a guy, and again, the possibility that Bentancur's out, so you got to get a guy anyways, right? Because there's a good chance Bentancur could be moved. So if you're going to bring in a guy anyways, it's more just like, are one of these guys going to be good enough? Is it going to be the guy in terms of holding, and then Locatelli coming in? What does that do for Arthur? I'd have the same question, and I had the same thoughts with Bentancur and Arthur sharing the pitch. But what you see in Pirlo's setup that's starting to develop is that they're actually there's a bit of a fluidity there where they rotate almost amongst the two of them. And Arthur got very high up the pitch in our last Serie A outing. Obviously, he got that goal against Bologna there. And I was kind of shocked to see him up the pitch, driving towards the top of the 18 there. And then you watched, and he started to do it more often, and Bentancur would sit back. And then there were times Arthur would sit back and Bentancur was going up. So I think Locatelli, like watching him play SAS, sometimes he gets involved, but for the most part, he's that holder there. I still think it could work between the two of them. Not DePaul, man. I like DePaul. I think he's a solid player. When you watch him on the ball, he's very, very strong on the ball. Good at hitting dead balls. Not that matters with us, because Ronnie's going to step over every single one of them. But no, man, I think DePaul's really, really good. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But that's why I say I have mixed feelings, because I do agree with you, Eric. It's always about what you currently have and getting the best out of it. In terms of Kulishevsky, man, Kulishevsky could offer the changeup in that Ramsey role to McKennie. Like, McKennie's kind of ahead right now by everything, but I'm kind of shocked we haven't seen Kulishevsky at least attempted there, because he's such a weird player, because he has moments where you're just like, oh man, that's brilliant. And then 10 seconds later, you follow up by, man, it looks like a deer on ice.
Yeah.
Like it's the most frustrating thing with Kulishevsky. It's very, very bizarre. But what do you guys think him so far as second striker? It seems that Juve and Pirlo, whatnot, are kind of somewhat comfortable, and they may be backing off the option of that fourth striker in terms of using him there full time as that backup. And what do you think about him potentially being a switch up to McKennie and coming out of the midfield? I absolutely hate Kulusevski as a wingback. Each time we put him either the left or the right there, it's absolutely a hole. Completely useless out there. He, in my opinion, for me, he suits that role that McKennie is in as a changeup to when McKennie's not in that lineup. I think he would do better at it than Ramsey too, to be honest. But I'm not dissatisfied with him as second striker. But I think it's definitely better if Morata's out there. If you have Kulusevski and CR, I see a bit of a drop off. And honestly, I see that with everybody. Like Morata's huge to this setup and this lineup, in my opinion. But what do you guys think in terms of Kulusevski and kind of elaborating more on what Eric started there with his position? Antonio, why don't you kick us off there on Kulusevski?
I think I'm going to ask you guys to cast your memory back to the Lazio game this year when we drew 1 each with the last kick of the ball. That, for me, arguably was Kulusevski's best game of the season. And it's really easy to work out why it was his best game for me. He played a position where he can see the field in front of him, where he's always got his opponent standing in front of him and he can take his opponent on. He's got 30, 40 yards of field in front of him to progress into. And that's the kind of player Kulusevski is. You need to put him in a position where he can see the field in front of him. That's why he's not a player that can play off the front two, because his back's to goal and he struggles big time with a defender behind him on him tight. And he's certainly not a wing back. So for me, his best position is definitely an inside mid, like he played against Lazio, where he can be deadly.
Yeah. Eric, do you think he's found a home at second striker? Would you like to see him tried out in that role as a change-up to McKennie? I know how you feel about Ramsey, so I think you maybe would like to try that.
I think putting him in that position would misuse his skill set. We wouldn't be maximizing him. And I actually made a shout about using Kulusevski and Cristiano up top and putting Morata at second striker as a supporting striker, because his ability for his hold-up play and his ability for number 9 with freedom to move up and down. So your top three can turn into, 2 strikers and a supporting striker, or it can go into like two wingers and a striker in the middle. So you have some fluidity there. I thought that could also offer Kulusevski a lot more ability to see the pitch and be in the box and use his creativity, because not every game is going to present him with what Tony said. And I agree with Tony, but not every game is going to give him the ability to just get the ball at his feet and see it, 30, 40 yards of pitch. It's just not going to work. So put him in the best position possible. And I think we're still trying to figure that out. But I like the idea of getting his creativity in the box with Cristiano, and then using Morata as possibly a hold-up striker that has the freedom to kind of just take off if he needs to.
Yeah, I don't know. So if you're doing that, though, that changes the entire setup if we're going to try and drop all 3 of them in there.
Well, it goes to a 3-4.
What are you talking 4-3-3?
No, it would technically probably go into a 3-4-3 instead of the 3-4-1-2. So you can still run the same midfielders, but that would probably allot that whoever's on that midfielding wing, if you will, like whatever position that is, either a true winger or someone who can offer you some legitimate defense.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Alberto. I think just sorry to interrupt here. I think just kind of staying on the Kulusevski thing. I think regardless of where he plays on the pitch, he needs to improve his decision making. There's too many games where he's good for 20 minutes and then you don't see him for the remainder of the game. He needs to stay in the game more and get better with his decision making. He can be very, as you said, Alberto, you touched on it. He can be a very frustrating player because he takes far too much time on his decision making. He needs to improve that, and then we can see where he's best suited on a pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to get good and bad. in either spots if we were going to try him as that change up to McKennie and keeping him up front as a second striker. I think you're going to get the good and the bad. I definitely see the struggles with the touch in tight, and especially with someone on his back.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking, if you got him in a position where he's moving forward more often and has that space to start off with, okay, just enough where he can get the ball, turn and look, and hopefully have that pivot to play off of if the focal point is Morata. And this is what I see, like when we have those other guys, like if you got Ronaldo he's free roaming. So it's not always there for Kulusevski, but to me, he just looks like a perfect player to be able to, slot in there, grab the ball, and be able to create, whether it's give and goes 1-2 with guys or take a guy on, run at the D, cause havoc. But I think when we put him too far up, and he's naturally doing that now. He's naturally doing it as the second striker. Yeah. He's dropping back. He's coming into that space. It's working good between him and McKennie because they don't get in each other's way or whatnot, but he's naturally doing it. The only thing is, if he's going to be out there at the same time as another guy that has a lot of movement, and isn't rigid to that role, that's where it kind of dies down, and it's not as effective as it can be for me.
I don't want to interrupt you in that. I certainly don't want to kind of go down a rabbit hole and start a different conversation on this. But I thought the last match, actually, before Bernardeschi took his knock, like towards the end of the first half, I thought you saw some really good give and goes between Berna and Kulusevski, or where Kulusevski was finding that space and Berna was kind of passing him open to kind of do exactly what you're saying, where he can basically pivot off one person, or he can basically get in a position to where he's seeing 30, 40 yards of pitch. So I agree with you. It just happened to be Bernardeschi that match that he was linking up with instead of McKennie. But you saw how impactful he can be when he has that freedom to do so.
Yeah. And that's just it. Colin brings up a decent point here too. Like Kulu looks like I think Kulu looks like a confused kid at times, unsure what his role is, but he gives the ball away a lot. So midfield is a high tariff role for him. I don't necessarily disagree with the fact of how many times, he does get dispossessed. And second striker is easiest role for him to play at the moment. But again, I just think it's more effective with somebody that's locked in there. Eric bringing up Bernardeschi. Bernardeschi.
We don't have to do this, man. We really don't.
Man, honestly, like, it's funny because he's actually he had a good outing. He had several good outings after he came back from the Azzurri break. His minutes dwindled, which is strange, because he finally his work rate was never in question, even through all the struggles. It was decision making, it was confidence, it was all sorts of things, even the fit, because he was moved all over the place. I liked him on that left side. I liked it when he came back from the Azzurri, and I said, man, that's looking pretty good. It's serviceable at the very least, and it gets you a guy with much more experience than Frabotta. And I thought it was really, really, really strange that his minutes just went away. For me, that signaled they were moving him come the January Mercado. And then obviously stories came out that he's not accepting moves to other clubs, whatnot, and he wanted to stay and whatnot. So now you get into a situation where he is he's had a couple outings where I actually wasn't completely dissatisfied, but still everybody's like, no, Bernardeschi's got to go and not. Is he serviceable? Should he be getting at least a few more looks than what he gets now, or is that kind of it for him? So what do you guys think? I think he could still play his part. I've actually been, aside from that chip attempt in that match, everything else, I mean, shit, he's been pretty unlucky. When he came back from the Azzurri there, he easily could have racked up goals and assists. He had a couple, I think, hit the post, but his teammates weren't burying, and he had good setups. So the stat line could have been very, very good for him in a small dose of minutes. And then it's funny how stats change the discussion for a lot of people and whatnot, but the eye test, and even when we bring up these other players, Locatelli, DePaul, the eye test never fails, man. And I see a guy that's working his ass off, man, and you can't really decisions. We're going to get decision issues with Kulishevsky, like you guys talked about. At times, it's going to happen for McKennie too, because he's younger. Shit, it happens with Ramsey all the time. So it's like you're going to get that. What's the trade-off? We talked about this before. Guys, where you take the good with the bad. Berna's kind of in there. Sandro's in there. Quadrado's in there. You take the good with the bad. Is he still serviceable? Does he absolutely have to be moved? He's got 18 months left, I think. So what do you guys think about this guy? Like, what do you guys say? I know how, Eric, you feel about him and whatnot, but do you think we kind of shot ourselves in the foot not going a little more to it right after that strong break with the Azzurri?
Well, I don't think Pirlo had a choice. So when he came back from international break, Chiesa had a knock. So he kind of had to use Bernardeschi. And I think that was right before he really was able to implement his system with this hybrid, with all the moving parts. So I think he needed a true winger to play that spot. So when Chiesa got healthy, I think no matter what, or no matter how well Bernardeschi was playing, Chiesa was coming back in the starting lineup. And I think that's why his minutes dropped. And then Chiesa, who the kid has like crack energy. He gives you 1,000 miles an hour, 90 minutes every game. Like, how do you take a guy like that off the pitch? So it was very difficult for Bernardeschi probably to get back into that rotation because Chiesa was playing so well. I agree with you. For me personally, I think Bernardeschi's stat line could be very well 4 goals, 4 assists in a very short period of time. And because he wasn't able to capitalize, or his teammates weren't able to capitalize, people overlooked that. But I've had multiple conversations with a few other individuals. I think there are a handful of players that come to mind immediately that we should be moving. And I would not be surprised if Bernardeschi is now played well enough to find himself as a rotational player at the very least. And I don't think he has to be moved. I think he's very dependable. I think his health is a huge asset to his game. He had a sprained ankle 2 days ago, and he's back in the squad this week. So his ability to recover and stay healthy has always been there. And like you said, he has gone from probably being headless chicken to serviceable, versatile wingback. And I think he's made huge strides in this kind of new position for us on that left side.
Yeah, I think so too. Antonio, what do you think?
I think we could be forgetting one key factor in the whole Bernardeschi thing. His agent is now Mino Raiola. So I think Mino Raiola could have a big say of Bernardeschi leaving. I think Bernardeschi's gone. Not because of obviously Mino Raiola coming in, because I just can't see the guy remaining. I actually thought when COVID hit and all the stadiums were closed, I actually thought it would do Bernardeschi the world of good, not having supporters there on his back. I thought he would find his confidence again, because I think it is a confidence thing with him. As an athlete, as Eric said, he's by far he's one of the most fittest guys on the side. His powers of recovery, but he just lacks that confidence. I'll actually find myself sometimes going to YouTube when he played with Fiorentina, and he wasn't a hard worker. He was a flair player. He roamed the pitch, and he had so much ability. I can even remember me played him myself, and he was the most dangerous player. He's now I wouldn't say he's sacrificed ability, because it's part of him, but he's got so little confidence that he's focusing more on obviously the athletic side of his game, as I say. But I think his time's up. I really do. I think it's time to move him on as well, where he still holds some value, to say. And obviously with Mino Raiola being in the background, anything's possible. Anything's possible with that guy.
I think, that's one of the things that used to frustrate me quite a bit with Juve because, and I've been very vocal about it on the pod over the past couple seasons here, but it was like, again, going back to these moves, going back to the system, going back to why I don't think we need to jump on Pirlo out hashtag so quick, because you start changing systems, then it starts bringing into question the guys that you just moved in and you just brought in. How does this work? Now you want to create a coaching carousel and all this. It needs to all make sense. So we used to be notorious for fucking doing that, bringing in players, slotting them into places they just don't fit. And it was frustrating as hell. We went through a transitional phase where we were losing huge key cogs in our midfield, and we replaced them with guys of lesser quality. And then the one guy that was supposed to be that piece, who, with all due respect, did a good job for quite a few years, Pjanic, but he was an attacking fucking midfielder that we brought in to be a defensive holding midfielder. That's fucking wild. It's wild to do. The reason they did it, because they spent a shit ton of money, like 90-something% of the Pogba money, on Gonzalo Higuain. Was there better options at the time? Well, you could go back and forth. Hindsight's 2020. Gonzalo Higuain scored a shit ton of goals. He did his job. I will say that. But the discussion point's always going to be there. You had the option to buy Morata, who was a killer for us too. Was he as big a name as Higuain? No. Did he break the Serie A record like Higuain at the time? No. But your money would have been spread out, and you left a hole. You left a hole in one of the most important areas of the pitch, the middle of the park. And now when we start talking about Bernardeschi, how this translates to Bernardeschi, you had a guy who joined us in his first season, and he was playing to his position, very close to it, one of his two positions, because at Fiorentina he was a winger with the freedom to slot in behind the forwards, and at times he would be that second guy up top, and we had him on the wing, and he actually looked pretty damn good. He looked pretty damn good in that first year. The second year, you're waiting for this breakout. It never came. It just didn't come. And then we got into this mode very quickly where it was just like, we're moving them all over the place. And from there on, it became, what are you going to get from this kid? Where is he going to play? And it was this shit show. Now you fast forward to here, and I think he does deserve a bit of credit because he's always adapted and he's always worked hard. And now he's got a position where, again, we could say you could somewhat depend on him there if you had to in a crunch scenario. Yeah. So he becomes serviceable, and the fact that he could go in a couple different ways. Like, he could play multiple positions. It's the same reason a lot of people can say, yeah, you want to keep Cuadrado around. He's not 1A at right back, but he'll fucking work for you, and he'll be serviceable, and he can cover multiple areas. So if you're going to defend Cuadrado in terms of keeping him around, even for a 1-year extension or whatnot, because he's serviceable, here's a guy that's a lot younger, that can stay fit, that can recover quickly or whatnot. And I think it's a fair discussion to say, hey, if at best he's a utility guy, he's a utility guy, right? Especially if the value's not there. Like, what are we going to get in a move, right? Yeah. The money's not there. It's another reason why when we talk about Dybala and selling him, is now the best time? Is it the best time?
I'm kind of fucked then, because I'm not going to defend Cuadrado. So if I'm not going to defend him, it's hard for me to defend Bernardeschi. But I do find it a little funny too that a lot of fans, some are actual fans, some aren't, but they go on a limb and be like, guys like Pioli, guys like Gasperini, these guys would do him wonders in terms of his playing. And I'm like, Have you not seen the progress that he's made under Pirlo compared to the last 2 years? If anything, Pirlo is doing wonders for him. So it's like, don't overlook where he's currently at. I mean, his strides to me have been astronomical. Just like, last year the kid couldn't even dribble the ball. We couldn't get past that. And this year he's threatening scoring goals. I mean, that's a huge leap in just his progress overall.
Yeah. It's definitely there. And I think it's funny if you use the same, fans using the same defense for one, keep it consistent and keep it level. And it's a discussion that I think is fair, to be honest. And we got a couple guys, Colin and Marco, making some comments about Morata and the option that Madrid had at the time. Excuse me.
God bless you.
Live. That happened. So we had the option. No, we didn't have the option. Madrid bought him, but if we wanted to purchase him at that time, I think the number was around 45 that Madrid said we could have purchased for. So yes, they did have the option go back, but if we wanted to purchase, we could have at that time, if memory serves me correctly. But I've had a lot of beer between the time Morata first played for us and now, so memories can fail at times. All right, guys, we're going into the match against Sampdoria here today. We've got a strong lineup, okay? And we're going to get after it. Progress, in terms of progress, this is the topic about Juve that you still have a lot of fans that say there's minimal progress in terms of play, and there's not enough goals for the team, and all this control with nothing coming out of it possession-wise, and we're still fragile at the back. I think there's progress. I think now we're getting healthy again, but I think it's the biggest progress is, we've pretty much know who we need to go with and where we need to put them. That was a big part of Pirlo's thing at the start. It was actually funny and it entertaining to some degree because Sky Sports, I don't know who runs their graphic division or whatnot, but they still can't get it right or whatnot. But it was funny at the start because you didn't know what to get out of Pirlo. Who's going to be playing where, what you're going to see, how's it going to line up? Is it, what is this thing? 3-5-2, 3-4-1-2, 4-4-2. Like what's happening, right? And if anything, it was keeping us on our toes and whatnot. But there was a lot of changes from match to match, and that's why I'm saying now the biggest thing for me is a couple changes. Tone it down from match to match. Try to keep the chemistry, keep the momentum going, and keep everything moving the best way possible and put our best foot forward in every match. But progress, how do you guys feel now as compared to the start of the season? And what have you noticed in terms of Pirlo so far? And either one, you can kick this off. Eric, let's go with you.
Okay. So I think there's a fine line between consistency and progress. And progress is there. To me, it's just been the consistency. But a lot of that was due to health of the player. It was due to his tinkering and trying to find the best fit. So to be honest with you, I think once he found the combination between Bentancur, Arthur, and McKennie, things started to tick. So to me, ever since he's kind of found that combination of players and we've made that lineup, there has been a lot of progress, and you can visibly see his ideas on the pitch. So that to me has been, it's there. To me, the biggest thing is still trying to find that consistency in our play. You can't go out there and score 3-4 goals one match and then not have any shots on goal the next match and then go win 2-0. Like you got to keep being consistent. So that's been my biggest issue.
Yeah. Antonio.
Yeah, I must agree with Eric. I'm starting to see for the first time in a long time a team that's dominating most games with possession, but we're starting to shoot on goal. I can remember just last year we were having to wait sometimes to the 65th, 70th minute to see a shot on goal. Now you just don't see that. You can see the team making positive progression. And I use the word positive because you can progress. We progressed last year with Sarri, but it wasn't positive. Because we were still dominating the ball, but we weren't shooting on goal. I say, are we a work in progress? Yes, we are. But you look at a lot of the big teams around Europe, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, there's gaps in their play as well. No team's perfect. We need to remember that Pirlo, when he basically passed his driving test and they gave the guy a Lamborghini, because that's what he's got. He's in the possession of in my opinion, one of the top 3 sides in Europe. And we need to be a little bit less critical of him, me especially, because I have been very overcritical of him. But as Eric said, he has had problems with injuries, COVID, everything. Obviously, he's a newbie to it, but now he has got no excuses. We've got a full roster. The team look as if the side almost looks as if it's starting to pick itself. So he's got less problems. And I want to see him kick on. I want to see how this game progresses today, because this is going to be a really important period for us. There's a game almost every 2-3 days almost. Big games as well, big oppositions. So I think you touched on this in a previous podcast, Alberto. January was always going to be, he was going to live or die what he does and what happens in January, and I don't think it's any different.
Yeah, I literally said that in my latest piece in the weekly column this week for Bianconeri Zone. I literally put in there, everybody was, very, very concerned at winter break heading into January. It was going to be a crucial month. And we have, under the radar, very, very low key, done very, very well through it and only dropped points so far, knock on wood, in one match. And that's big. That's very, very big. And now you throw into the mix the guys that are back from COVID. We're literally just waiting for Dybala. And you're going to be back at full fitness. And guys like Chiellini's looked good in his appearance, which will help us when he's in the fold. De Ligt's a monster, so he's going to be good. Demiral's a little interesting one. And I don't think Pirlo rates Demiral. And I think there's a bit of a thing going on there. And Demiral looked very, very unhappy, to say the least, in that Coppa Italia clash and when he come off and whatnot. So something could be happening there. But in terms of progress, yeah, there is. There's just no doubt. You could see it in Pirlo's substitutions compared to the beginning of the year now. They seem to make more sense. And it makes more sense. Why does it make more sense? Because he now has the understanding of who he needs to play, where he needs to play it, and he's starting to get better at reading the matches. There are still a couple times every now and then where he's a little bit slow to the sub and maybe just waiting a little bit too long, and he's kind of playing with some fire there. But for the most part, it's much, much improved. In terms of this match against Sampdoria, expectations, guys, for me, I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it'll still be tough because I have a feeling they're going to be in lockdown mode, maybe try to catch us. If they do set up that wall, Juve has I'm curious to see now how McKennie will operate in tighter situations, because while he's been in that role, the games have been fairly open. He hasn't had to face those guys that slam that wall at the back and then just kind of congest that area. So I want to see that, but I think we're going to pull it out. Honestly, if I had to make a call here, I'm probably going to go 2-0 for Juve. That's what I think is going to happen in this one. Guys, your expectations coming into this one, predictions if you want to throw one out.
Are you go, Eric?
I actually agree with you. I think it's going to be 2-0. I think Chiesa's very direct style of play is going to be one of the biggest factors. So I think that's going to help McKennie a lot too, especially with his forward runs. So getting a guy like Chiesa back, and starting in this match and him really running up and down that flank is going to help. But I do think it's going to be a 2-0.
Yeah, there you go, Antonio.
I think just before I give you a prediction, touching on McKennie, what you were just saying, Alberto, it would be interesting to see what he's like against a team that shuts the door. Now, what we mustn't forget, what McKennie gives you as well, he's very good at set pieces. He can score a lot of goals most of his goals are with Schalke were all set pieces and headers, so he can give you that as well. I think it's going to be a 3-1. I've been shouting for 3-1 now for quite some time, so I think we will concede a goal. I just can see us always conceding a goal away from home, but I think we'll do the job 3-1.
Yeah, I got called out for my last prediction, even against Spal, because I said maybe they find a PK or something. Everybody's like, man, when's the last time you predicted a clean sheet? And I said, a long time. I go, and up until these past couple of games, I go, we didn't have one for a long time. There's always that one goal, one match in there where we allowed 2. So I go, yeah, it's been like that. But today, I'm going to go with 2-0. We seem to be catching stride. Watch now. We concede. Fuck. Yeah, you guys can blame me. That's fine. But, yeah, we'll see how this goes down. We got Ken coming in with McKennie goals are always great, but today I hope he hits on a few assists to the attackers. Colin saying, I think McKennie could switch with Chiesa to get Chiesa on the right in this lineup mid-game rotation if we can't get the ball to Chiesa. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, that it's going to be interesting to see Chiesa on the left. There's been quite a few times when he's out there, we aren't able to get him involved. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. As far as predictions, Marco's going with the same one as Antonio, 3-1. Ken's going 4-0. Wow.
Hopefully.
I would welcome this one. Absolutely. But it's going to be a good match. A tough one, but we see Juve going through, and hopefully we can keep that pressure mounting on the guys ahead of us. We know they're trying to call us favorites still, but I like where we're at. The last one I want to talk to you guys about, without going down a big rabbit hole, but somebody reached out to me and I made comments. We're going to get things probably rolling. Ronaldo gets into his usual self, because I do feel he's been off, even in terms of attitude. But I said I'm not worried about him; he'll come back. And the Juventino actually responded with, he is concerned about Ronaldo and his attitude, and he doesn't like how it's been, and thinks that maybe it doesn't turn around, and maybe, who knows, Father Time's catching up. I just can't bet against Ronaldo, and probably never will. And I think it's going to turn around, and I think he's going to, if he starts clicking while we're putting the rest of this puzzle together, I think we got a scary, scary team on our hands. And then when people want to talk about, can this team, because this question's been brought up too in the same circumstance, can this team do anything in Europe? We're still well off the mark of competing in Europe. And I almost tend to disagree, because I think if we get Ronaldo going and we put the rest of this puzzle together, we could be that dangerous team that you don't want to face in these one-off scenarios over a 2-leg. So real quick, you guys, as we wrap up, your thoughts in terms of Ronaldo and his attitude and our Champions League hopes. Eric, go ahead.
I think there's a difference, obviously, with being frustrated with not scoring goals and then having a good attitude with the team. I think his attitude with the squad and the team and the players is very high. I think he's just been frustrated because, he hasn't been able to see, during some matches, because he hasn't fucking scored. And then I don't know what type of voodoo, witchcraft, black magic fucking Pirlo does during these like big major European matches, but he's got that shit unlocked. So in terms of Europe, I'm not really worried. It's the small matches that bother me.
Yeah, Antonio.
Yeah, I must agree. Ronaldo, we mustn't forget, he's notorious for every year he has a slump, and then halfway through the season, I think it's something to do with the training he does, his own training. He always seems to hit the ground running usually about this time of the season. So, but as I say, with his attitude, Ronaldo, he's a winner. He's a born winner. He wants to win every game. Even when you see the clips of him in training with silly bounce games, he just wants to win. That's just who he is. You need to take the bad with the good with him. In terms of Sorry, what was the other question? Sorry, I've bad into
Champions League hope.
Champions League, yeah, Champions League. This is a year where I think we could possibly win it, and I'll say that is because it's an unprecedented year. Every time Juve seems to win a big trophy, it's always some kind of controversy behind it. So I'm hoping it's a bit of positive controversy behind it this time. I think we could win it this year, I really do.
Yeah, and like I say, I responded basically in the same way, just saying that anything can happen in that tournament as it is. But when you got a team like this that's starting to get the wheels rolling quite nicely, and again, while some people may be frustrated with the attitude of what Ronaldo and think he can offer more, it's gonna come. You almost feel like it's just a matter. It's always just a matter of time with him, and if it comes at the right time. Look out. I think we got a nice thing building here, and I like how things are going. Guys, Antonio, Eric, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks, everybody who joined in the live here chat. Please subscribe. Please like the video, comment, all that. It all goes a long way. Thanks for the support. Of course, I got another podcast coming after this one. It'll be tomorrow morning, same time. Live with a great guest, Omar, who will be joining me. But enjoy the match, everybody. Hopefully we have another victory to celebrate, and hopefully our rivals will suffer this round like they did the last. Enjoy the match, as always. Till next time. Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.